Yeah,
And
I'm just,
all right, we're going to give it one more minute before we get started because people are arriving. But it's so good to see everybody here. I'm glad you guys are here. And this is being recorded so that the people who registered and couldn't attend live could still see our wonderful conversation. So, all right.
oh, and I know Wendy. Wendy always comes. She's a Jewish
Yes.
Joy regular.
Yay. Oh my gosh. I love all
Yeah.
these
Who
familiar
are the
faces.
other people here? Let's see, do I know the
You
others?
guys could put in the chat where you're from or how you heard about this or, and we're going to want questions from you later too. So make sure that we
Mhm.
get to hear your voices too. So, all right, should we jump in, Heidi? Yes?
Sure, let's do it, Lynn.
All right, so it is 7 o'clock in Detroit, 6 o'clock in Minneapolis. I see Wendy's in LA, so it's 4 o'clock for her. So we will get going. This is an author talk with me, Lynne Golodner, and my friend Heidi Shertok. And our topic tonight is sex and Jewish characters in fiction and where those two things meet. And so we're going to have a really fun, feisty conversation.
Everyone's fine. We actually had a sleepover with Margot.
Okay. Uh, we're going to have a lively conversation tonight, and we'll have time for questions at the end. And both Heidi and I are going to give away a book at the very end. So the lucky winners have to stay on until the end. Sorry, guys. I'm going to give away a copy of Woman of Valor, my first novel. Heidi, which book are you going to give away?
Oh shoot, I should have brought it right with me. But yes, I
Okay.
can just grab one real quick. Don't look at the
Okay.
bottom. I'm in my pajama pants. Okay, match me if you can.
Such a
Right
good
here.
book. Oh my God, I love that book so much. Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Heidi, why don't we start off with introductions? Why don't you tell people who you are and then I can do the same?
Yeah, hi, my name is Heidi Shertok. I'm an international Orthodox Jewish romance author. I'm also a breast cancer survivor, a wife, a mom, and I'm also the community engagement and partnership head of Jewish Joy LLC, which is a company that Gene Meltzer, my friend, started. So, yeah.
Amazing. 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 I'm Lynne Golodner. I live in Detroit. I am the author of 12 books, three of which are novels that came out in the past few years. And I'm on a tear to write a book a year for the rest of my life. I'm going pretty fast, which is really fun. And my first eight books were traditionally published, and then I created my own imprint, Scotia Road Books, for my fiction. And we are actually publishing some other writers too this year and next, which is really exciting. I live in Detroit. I'm the mom of four young adults who no longer live in my house, which is very exciting. And
I
I
thought you were
think
going to
that's
say
it.
sad.
Oh, no, well, because we had like a reprieve. So we actually had an empty nest, and then somebody came back and we were like, oh, we actually like the empty nest. And then they finally left. So we love seeing our kids. We just also love living just the two of us now.
I know.
So anyway. All right. Both of us write a lot about Jewish identity. That's like in both of our books, which I think is so unique. And it's something that I made a priority to do when I was figuring out my author brand when I started writing fiction. And that was so important to me because I think it's really, we see Holocaust books and we see tropes and stereotypes, but we don't always see positive Jewish identity, especially these days. And I realize all my writing across genres and everything I've done over the years has really celebrated how much I love being Jewish. And so I made a choice to make sure that my novels have strong, compelling, proud Jewish characters. So let's start there, Heidi. Tell me a little bit about what is in your thinking when you're creating really vivid, strong Jewish characters in your books.
Yeah, well, it's really interesting, Lynn, because the first time I wrote Unorthodox Love, it was my first Jewish romance and Orthodox Jewish romance at that. And I queried it and I got my first round. I was really lucky and I had some agents who wanted to meet me, a UK agent and a US agent. And the first thing I remember them saying to me is, wow, this is the first story we've read where Orthodox Jews seem normal.
Mhm.
And I'll always remember that because it caught me so off guard. I'm like, wait, aren't we normal? Like, it's all I've ever known. And I feel like I know so many fun, wacky Orthodox Jews that I guess many people, though, however, don't think about when you think about like how the media represents us in TVs and books and movies, there is that dour kind of repress, especially when it comes to women. um, those sort of storylines. So I guess for me, I didn't even think about it consciously when I was writing my book. But then afterwards, now when I realize I have a lot of, it's almost like a responsibility when you're an author. Um, so I guess, yeah, I just wanted subconsciously, I guess I carried across this message that Orthodox Jews can be fun. And then when I wrote my second book, the one I'm going to be giving away, Match Me If You Can, I was very conscious that time because it was my second book of my, non-Jewish readers or really just across the board, Jewish readers and how they would perceive the characters. And I tried a lot harder, I think, to think about that when I was writing.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's funny. I mean, I just really love being Jewish, and I've been all kinds of Jewish. I say I've been a smorgasbord of, and now I'm just
I
Jewish,
know.
like I grew
Yeah.
up Reform. I spent 10 years in the Orthodox world. I'm on the board of my conservative synagogue now, so I don't know what I call myself, but I really love it, and I feel like there's enough negative like representation of Jews in the world and also misunderstandings that I didn't want to add to that. And even though I am no longer Orthodox, I didn't want to be disparaging any of my fellow Jews, And so, like, when I wrote Woman of Valor, which I started in 2011, like 3 years after my first marriage ended and I left the Orthodox community, and I wrote like 60 pages and it sort of stalled there, but the protagonist Sally was like really whiny. And so when I went back to her like 10 years later when I started really writing it, I'm like, well, I definitely don't want that, so let's see what I can do with it. And I wanted her to love it. Like I wanted her to face challenges as everybody does in fiction and in life and whatever, but ultimately I wanted her to choose to stay in the Orthodox world even when it was hard. And so,
Wow.
and she's a Balat Tshuva. I think, I don't know what you feel about this, but I feel like a lot of first novels are more close to the author's actual story than subsequent novels. So for sure, there are pieces of me in this story that maybe there aren't as much in my subsequent books. Do you see that too? Like, is
That's
that,
so interesting. Well,
yeah,
I know for the book I'm working on right now, it feels almost autobiographical. I'm working on Frady from Unorthodox Love, Penina's
yeah,
younger sister.
yep,
And I feel like this is kind of embarrassing because it's basically entirely me if I had taken a different path in life. When you come to
interesting.
that fork in the road, like I had
Yeah.
taken personally in my own life the safe kind of
Uh-huh.
traditional path where I
Uh-huh.
got married, and I got engaged at 20, had a baby by 21, and all of that. So, but in this book, the one I'm working on now, I'm kind of exploring the path that I had taken had I been a bit more, I don't know, brave or something.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. That's really interesting. Okay, so we promised to talk about sex tonight, so we're gonna
We
get
have to go
right into it,
sexy. We have
right?
to go there.
Yes. So I want to start out by like just saying, like a lot of authors have doubts about writing sex, like how much to include, what to hint at, what to leave out. I mean, some books are super spicy and detailed, and some are just like hinting at things. So I wonder, like, what is your experience between your books? You treat it differently in both of your books. My first three novels ha are very steamy. There's a lot of like detailed sex scenes in there. So I want to hear from you, and then I can share my experience. But like, yeah, like, how did you approach it? How did you make decisions about how to write it? How did it feel? Like any of that?
Well, I have to start off by talking about what happened in ninth grade. And that was when, can you still see me?
Yeah, no, you're pinned on the
Oh, there we
screen.
go.
So yeah,
Okay, my
yeah.
screen went dark for a second. Because when I was in ninth grade, my mom gave me a copy of Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen.
Uh-huh.
And she said, "This is my favorite book ever." And I was a teenager, and I'm like, I'm not going to like it then if you like it. But I totally fell in love with it.
Uh-huh.
And Jane Austen did such an incredible job where the build-up was so good that by the time they just said each other's first name, you were like, woo-wee, that felt almost like a steamy scene in and of
Uh-huh.
itself.
Uh-huh.
And so I always thought afterwards, like, you know what? A sex scene just kind of ruins it. But
Hmm.
then when I was in my 20s, I read my first Susan Elizabeth Phillips book.
Okay.
And then I realized, wow, a sex scene can actually like make the whole relationship even better because it's never like bad sex. It's
Right.
always like amazing sex, like the best sex they've ever had in their entire lives.
True. So true.
Right?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay, and I promise, okay, she might not be here. I don't know if she's here, but I got this in the mail from St. Martin's Press. This is
Uh-huh.
Kate Fox. She's Jewish, and this is her debut book.
It's
And
so beautiful. I love that
isn't
cover.
it so
Yeah.
beautiful?
Yeah.
And so that reminded me of it. So I told her I would mention it because it's like they have the best sex ever.
I love it. Love it.
And so anyway, I just thought to myself, like, wow, I guess maybe I had it wrong. Maybe you actually can have sex in a way where it furthers the plot and makes the characters actually feel closer to each other. It's almost like the culmination of all of these different intimate emotions. And so then I became addicted to sex scenes. I'm like, forget Jane Austen. That was so 2000, whatever. No, actually 1880s or whatever, but you know what I'm saying. And so for my debut book, Unorthodox Love, I actually wanted to have a sort of like really steamy scene, but my agent said, no, let's keep them, according to the Orthodox Jewish laws. And that
Mhm.
kind of annoyed me because I'm like, I get that enough in my own community, like Rabbi
Yeah.
and Rebbitzin. Like, I don't need my agents policing me, but
Right.
whatever. And
Yeah.
then for Match Me If You Can, I'm just like, you know what? I'm just gonna write a sex scene, and if they don't like it, fine, whatever. We'll see how it goes. And they let me keep it. So,
And you
um,
really built up to it too, because like when I was reading it, there was all this tension between them, and then when it finally happens, it's like near the end of the book, and it was like so well earned. It was just like
oh,
I
good.
didn't feel like it needed to come sooner. It was just like you really built up really well to it.
Yeah, tell me about your thoughts with your own writing. And
So
yeah.
it's funny. I don't think I thought about it deliberately when I was writing Woman of Valor. Well, actually, I did. I'm going to take that back. I wanted to show Orthodox Jews in a passionate marriage because there's always this stereotype that they're like really uptight and prudish and there's no passion and it's very like, rigid and scheduled and whatever. And I wanted to be like very open about Nida and family purity, but also have a really beautiful relationship between husband and wife. I just thought that was so important. And I will tell you that everybody who I've spoken to in book clubs and whatever, and a lot of non-Jews have read this book as well, and they're like, okay, I didn't know about any of these laws. And why are they so passionate? And I'm like, why wouldn't they be? Like they're just, I mean, we're
Right.
just like anybody else, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
so that was really deliberate. I wanted to do something different that we don't see with stories about Orthodox Jewish characters. And then in Cave of Secrets, so that's my second novel, and it takes place in Scotland. And Scotland is like a place made for sex, I think. So they just had to. And there is Judaism. There's like huge Jewish identity in there, and there's actually a gay character as well. There's four protagonists, and so Eve's father but he was raised in a more rigid Orthodox environment and then left to be open as a gay man. But he has so much that in himself from the way he was raised that it takes him a very long time to be comfortable with his sexual identity and have a relationship. And then in my third novel, I Love You, Charlie Tanner. It's also pretty spicy. She falls in love with a hot rabbi, but she's
Yeah, it was
40.
so good.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
So
Thank
good.
you. But I wanted an older protagonist because I realized like in both Cave and Woman of Valor, they're like, 30, 32, whatever.
Right.
So in Charlie, she's 40 and she's getting a second chance at love. And I think in all three, I wanted the women to have confidence in their sexuality and their sexual identity and be comfortable with it. Because I'll just say like I didn't grow up Orthodox, but I did grow up with like the whole sexual repression of the 70s, 80s.
What?
And
I thought that was more about sexual freedom, liberation.
well, it was historically, but in my family, it was like not the
Oh,
message. It was very like,
oh,
boys will do what they'll do, but girls will not. And it was like very much a double standard. So I wanted to
yeah.
create strong women who embrace their sexuality, and it's part of the expression between them and the man they love. And so I
I
think
love
it's,
that.
yeah, I think it can be a vehicle for beautiful writing and for bringing them closer together, like you said. And, my next book doesn't have as much in it nearly because it's totally different. Um, but I think about how, sometimes hinting at it is even more powerful, you know?
Oh, totally. Like the build
Yeah,
up, the chemistry,
yeah,
you mean? Yo,
yeah, yeah.
yes, girl.
I
Yes,
know.
I hear that.
Although I will say, I've been obsessed with Heated Rivalry, and that is so detailed and open door, and like it's gay male sex. And I keep saying to my husband, why do I love this so much? Like, why am I? Isn't
I
that
feel
crazy?
so bad because I tried it and I can't get into, obviously I'm very pro gay people. I love, gay people.
Uh-huh.
I can't get into like lesbian romance or gay, like it has to be a man and a woman. And I feel
Yeah.
very bad about that internally. But
Well,
I can't get into
every,
it. What's wrong with me?
No.
you know what? The first few books are
Yeah.
they're not like as good as the later books. And I think that
Yeah.
it is super spicy. The first couple of books, I was like, is there any story? It's a lot of sex. But the later ones, I was
Yeah.
so happy with how she like addressed issues like mental health and like, um, you know, LGBTQ, like being welcome in hockey and other things and toxic masculinity. And so I ended up liking the storytelling better. So probably the sex was easier to read because there was more of a story. Do you know what I mean? I
Yeah,
don't
well,
know.
I'm glad Paula said she couldn't get into it either. I feel like
Oh,
I'm
okay.
the only person in the entire world.
No, no, you're not. No, 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 no. It's just
I
a
don't
craze
know.
right now.
Okay, good.
Anyway,
Good.
yes.
Anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then we've covered sort of the nuts and bolts of it. Do you see any, I mean, I didn't mean that as a joke, but I guess it kind of was. So do you see any
Yes.
conflict to writing fiction that is Jewish and
Like,
also spicy with sex? Like, should those two things not go together or like, and I think you've had
right.
some examples of like challenge too,
Well,
right?
yes, especially like, okay, so I think Orthodox Jews are totally pro, especially pleasuring women, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
actually in the Kasuba that if a
Yeah.
woman says, I want to have sex, the man has to say, okay, I'll deliver for you, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which normally it's more the opposite in culture. So I love that. I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So what I did though is I did a premarital sex scene
Okay.
in this book, Match Me If You Can.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that because I wanted them to be so consumed by their lust that they couldn't help themselves. Because like I just go back to romance. Like what would
Yeah.
I want to read as a reader? But at
Yep.
the same time, I feel like Orthodox Jews are held to a higher standard. Kind of like
Mm.
not to get political, but I feel like Israel as a country is held to a double standard.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah,
For
so
sure.
I feel like I just wanted to show Orthodox Jews like we can still, like mess up. We can still have our moments, but that doesn't mean that we're not, I don't know. Like I did like for me writing this came from a good place, but I did get a lot of negative feedback. Like I will no longer like I had some women say I was going to send all of your new books to my daughter and her friends in seminaries, but now I no longer can. And like I get that. And I
Oh.
know somebody else was saying I wish there had been a warning like for
Mm.
the audiobook, which I totally understand. Like if you're listening to an audiobook and you've got your kids in the background, yeah, I wouldn't want that either.
100%. Yeah.
Right. So, and I just kind of feel like from what I gathered, most people would prefer not to have a sex scene.
Hmm. Interesting.
Did
I mean,
you?
I don't think your story needed it. I think it was great. I think it really like flowed in the story, but
Yeah.
I think that your story was strong without it too, you know?
Exactly, right. That's the thing. Yeah, it's kind
Yeah.
of about how do you know when to include a sex scene and when not to. So for
Right.
me, I agree. Like, I don't think I needed to include it. I just wrote
Mhm.
it for funsies.
Yeah. And you did it and it was successful and you learned something, right?
Oh, I learned not to do it again.
Yes. Yeah.
But what about you? How do you know when to include it or if it, furthers the plot?
So my next book, which is called Two Lifetimes, and it's coming out in October, is a way more serious and kind of darker story about it's a dual timeline. And it's two best friends today, and then in a former lifetime, their souls were connected, and it was the Holocaust. And so it's not exactly a romance or spicy type of setting. There is a husband and wife in the present day who, when they have this horrible traumatic thing happen to them, like a few days later, they like sort of turn to each other for comfort and for like reassurance that the relationship is still there after all of that. But it's just not like it was in my other books because it's not appropriate. And
Yeah.
so, and that book is done and it's, my editor sent it back and everything is like moving forward. So now I'm working on the next book, which is going to be a romance and it's, hockey and tennis because I've always played tennis and we were a hockey family. My dad played till he was 70, big Detroit Red Wings fans. And I really miss the 80s like so much. And so it's starting in the 80s and it's like this young man, young woman meet after high school and they both have these big athletic careers and like, can they have a relationship? So I don't yet know what kind of level of spice will be in there. There will be something, but I don't know. It's not going to be like heated rivalry for sure. Um, it's like it's more of
Yeah.
like a walk down memory lane, I think. And I want the relationship as well as the two people developing themselves and their sports careers to be, the focus. So I'm not sure yet, how it's going to play out. But
That
I
makes a
think,
lot of
yeah,
sense.
yeah.
And the writing is so good. I love the
Oh,
writing.
thank you. Thank you. I'll say one thing about the sex
Yeah.
scenes. When I speak to book clubs, they always ask
Mhm.
about it. And my mom's book club always invites me, no matter what book I have, they want me for the next one.
Aw.
It's very sweet. She lives in this like retirement community, and it's almost all women who come to the book club. But this one man comes because his wife is not well and she needs his support. And they're like old, they're like 80s or whatever. And he takes way too much interest in the sex scenes and asks like highly inappropriate questions with my mother sitting there. And
I
the
wish I
last
could be
time,
there. That'd
I
be
mean, it's
hilarious.
like so embarrassing. And he's a sweet
Oh my
man, but I'm
God.
like, okay. And last time my husband came and this man went up to my husband. He's like, so do you guys research the scenes? And I was like,
Oh my
oh my
gosh.
goodness. Oh my gosh. My mom was apologizing left and right. It was really embarrassing. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's happened to my husband too, where
Yeah.
people read my first self-published book, and I think I say the guy's penis was like 12 inches, or I don't know, something really funny. So, like, there have been people who come up and go, "Are you really that big?" Like, they always assume it's based off our real life, which is
Oh,
hilarious.
every book, they're like, is this you?
Yeah.
Is the protagonist you? And I'm like, no, it's
I
fiction.
mean, I think there's definitely parts of us with
Yeah.
every character, but
Yeah.
a large portion of it is fiction. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
So
Yeah.
in both of your books, what do you think are like little bits of you that are in the book?
Oh, that's a really good question. Definitely, I think the quirkiness, the sense
Uh-huh.
of humor, that's
Yeah.
definitely me. Panina, the people-pleasing
Yeah.
attribute, that's totally me.
Hmm.
And then if Match Me If You Can, Ashira was definitely not as much me, which I did intentionally. Like I wanted her to be a little bit more stronger, more of a
Uh-huh.
backbone. She had to be more independent. Yeah, so I don't know. I don't think she was me at all. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we both found Caleb super hot.
Yeah, the way you wrote him, he definitely was
Mhm.
gorgeous.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Love
What
that.
about you?
Like I said, in Woman of Valor, I think there's a lot of similarities, and I usually base my books in some way in Michigan. So even though like the
Yeah.
Scotland one in Cave of Secrets, there's also a Michigan component because that's where I'm from. But I think me becoming religious, being from the Detroit area, those types of things. My father was not a senator, and both of my parents were Jewish, so those were different things. But she has three little kids, and at the beginning of the book, and they're boy, girl, boy, and I did not realize that I did that. And my biological kids are boy, girl, boy. And my kids are like, oh my God, Mom, you wrote about us. And I'm like, I did not mean to. I have a,
Awkward.
I have a stepdaughter also, but they were like little kids. But like the
Yeah.
way Sally cooks with her kids and bakes and everything, I totally did all of that. And she's a runner. I am not a runner in any way, and you couldn't pay me to. But
Same like
Cave
a
of Sea,
sheer. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, no, for sure. Cave of Secrets, I loved the relationship between Eve and her father, and that was really based on how close my dad and I were. And I
Oh,
lost him in 2020, so that was just I wanted like a nice father-daughter connection. And I did a sabbatical in the Scottish Highlands, and that's where I like got all the research and landscape and whatever. And Charlie Tanner, I don't know that there's anything of me in that. I mean,
Interesting.
maybe the gardening. I'm very
There
into
you
gardening,
go.
you know. Um,
Yeah.
but no, I don't think I never
And
was in a cult.
I don't know, even like the Orthodox Jewish thing, I thought to myself, is this a little bit, you
Yeah.
know what I'm saying,
Yeah.
of your background with, I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
The thought occurred to me.
Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I think we're influenced by our backgrounds. It comes to how we choose to write things too. So
100%.
I want to
Yes.
ask you, and then I see questions in the chat. So we're gonna
Okay.
definitely have to open it to our audience. But
Yes.
what do you love most about writing Jewish romance?
Oh, such a good question. I think what I love most about that is kind of breaking the stereotypes.
Yeah.
So, as much as I love that TV show, Nobody Wants This, or Nobody, I think that's what
Yeah.
it's called. I feel
Yeah.
like it's a little bit sad and stereotypical. And
Yes.
yeah, so I think it's hilarious and I loved watching it. But at the same time, the Jewish women were a bit, whatever,
Totally
stereotypical,
agree. Yeah.
bossy, whatever.
Yeah.
So I think what I love most is just kind of breaking the stereotypes and being like, hey, we can be as funny, sexy, normal as anybody else out there.
Yeah. I love
That's
that.
what
That's
I
great.
love. What about you?
Well, I actually don't think I write straight romance. I've learned
That's
this.
true.
But I love writing about love. And so even though and I love writing about proud, strong Jewish people. And so what I love most is just sort of changing the narrative and like creating characters that are not what you expect, not the stereotypes, like you said. But I love when people find love and they can live with it. Like I think um, both writing about sex and writing about love, they're like two of the best things that we have as humans. And I just
Yeah.
I love when people find that and it makes their life better. And so that's what I want to put on the page because the world's ugly enough as it is. I'd like to have a great experience when I read a book, and I hope my readers do too. So
Yes. I was chatting with Brooke earlier, actually, who's here, and I was like saying, I love that feeling of just, I don't know, you're left with like this happy, joyous feeling whenever you pick up
yes,
a romance. Like, you know, it's
yeah,
gonna end up happy, and you're just, I think we deserve that, like you were saying, in the world
yeah.
we live in. And I think
I
there's,
wrote.
yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think there's something very also intimate in the relationship between the author and the reader.
Yeah,
And like the author really holds so much power. I think
yeah,
just in general, you can convey so many messages through the art of storytelling.
yeah,
And so when you talk about proud, grounded Jews and it's like different than what everybody else in society is expecting, which is,
right.
we love, like as Dara Horn said, people love dead Jews.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
so yeah, I don't know.
I think that's so smart. I love how funny your books are too, like smart and clever and hilarious. Like, because we need to laugh. It makes everything so much easier and better. I think, you know, I don't know. We have enough bad stories in real life that I think one of the best things about romance is you're going to have a happy ending. And I wrote about that in my Substack today because there are things about the genre that really bother me. But
Really?
oh my God, yeah, I don't want
Well,
to
that's interesting. We got to talk about that one.
I don't want to trash the genre because I consume it like water. It's crazy. But I don't love the cartoony cover designs. I feel like it sort
Oh,
of isn't,
okay,
it's like
fair.
it's kind of dumbing it down when it's actually important. It's like one of the most important genres and it's one of the most well read. I also do not like the third act breakup and how
I know.
like
I agree.
inevitably there's going to be some obstacle and I'm like, oh, just can't they just be happy together? But then
I
you don't have a book.
know.
So I
That's
get
the
that.
worst part, isn't it? The third act breakup. I hear that from a lot of people.
Yeah, but you wouldn't have a book if you didn't have these obstacles that they have to overcome. I
Yeah.
think also one of the things I have found in a lot of romance books, not all, is that there are communication issues, which frankly there are in real life too. I get that. But I keep like I start talking out loud to the book, like, can't you just talk to each other? Why don't you share your insecurities, please? Like, and they,
Right.
I mean,
Actually, I hear that a lot as well,
do
and that's
you?
very fair too.
Yeah. But at the same time, I read romance because I know what I'm getting. And when there's like really interesting characters and really interesting details developing in the story, it's so satisfying. And I know they're going to end up together, and that makes me so happy.
Me
I would
too.
be devastated if they didn't. Like I would
That's
literally be
women's
crushed.
fiction. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's turn to some of our wonderful questions in the
Sure.
chat. There's so many beautiful comments here. So, the first one, I think Tracy was asking if the issue,
Tracy! Yes.
yes, hi Tracy. If the issue was that there was a sex scene or a premarital sex scene in Match Me If You Can.
Such
Like
a
what?
good question, Tracy. I literally don't know.
Mhm.
I I think even any sex scene would have bothered people who
Mhm.
did get bothered by it, but all the more so, I think. So I was surprised even people who aren't religious said it was not for them.
Hmm.
So I think for people who aren't religious or even Jewish, let's say, like the sex scene did bother a fair amount of
Mm.
people. And it was enough that it makes me think it didn't have to do with it being premarital, even. It was just something they weren't expecting. Maybe
Sure.
because they read Unorthodox Love and that was a lot more, kosher, clean. So,
Yeah, for sure. And then we have a question from Evie.
I love Evie. I love her book, Light It Up Hanukkah. Such a good book.
Yeah,
She does
put
sex
every
so well.
yeah,
Shout
put it
out
in
to
the
Lisa.
chat. Evie, put it in the chat so we can share it
Put
with
it in the
everybody.
chat. I highly
Yes.
recommend it.
So she says,
I'm not
I
sure if
think,
I asked a question or just made like a million comments, but I love Match Me If You Can.
do you
Oh,
want to
thank
ask your question?
you. I can't
Yeah.
even see you. Let me see where. Yes, I have to figure out how to do the gallery view. Oopsie,
Oh,
that's not how
sorry.
to do
Can
it.
you all hear
Sorry,
me?
just ignore me. Oh, there you are.
Oh, I
Yeah.
was, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to ask your question, Evie?
Yeah, no, I was saying I don't know that I asked a question. I just made a million comments and I love Match Me If You Can. I haven't read any of your books, Lynn, but now I have to, especially
Yeah,
now
you
that I
have
know one's in
to.
Scotland. Yeah. No, great books. Love Jewish sex scenes. I did actually just kind of
Yeah.
more of a wondering. I don't know if it's something you can actually answer, Heidi, but I don't know. I guess it comes down to like who are you writing the book for? When you
Aw.
determine like what are you going to include or not, right? Like if you're really, but now that you've mentioned that, hey, maybe it was just Orthodox readers who had a problem with it, then I don't know. It's like I guess you have to answer that question like, am I going to live up to what other people expect of me so they can always be happy with it, or am I going to like try to be true to myself and what I think the characters would do? But
Yeah, if that was a whole protagonist storyline, then I would choose like that I would just do what is right for me. And I feel like I'm a little bit of a wimp in real life and I'm more of a people pleaser. But when I did write Match Me If You Can, it really was my own book. It was, especially after October 7th, it was like my form of therapy. And I really didn't think people were gonna have such a, I don't know, think like make such a uproar about the whole sex scene thing. But I feel like I'd rather just play it fair from now on, which is sad
Yeah.
because for me, as a reader, I actually really love sex scenes. So,
I
girl,
think
I don't know.
I I think you take it one book at a time because it's an evolution, and if a story really needs it and you believe that, then you'll address that when you get there. But maybe Frady's story doesn't need it, you know?
Feel like every woman's story needs it though.
No, that is true. I totally agree with that.
I see Brooke nodding there.
oh, you could
Evie,
tell
oh,
you could tell the spicy scenes separately, like on your website afterwards, like for all those of
bonus,
Right.
you who missed the spicy scene.
Yeah, like maybe different levels or something. I don't know.
yeah, bonus content, the end of the book with the QR code
That's
or
such a
something.
good idea. Like for
Yeah.
those of you who are interested, yeah, that's a good
And
idea.
then they could join your newsletter, and it's like a whole marketing thing. So there you go.
That's so good. So smart. Love it.
So Lisa asked a question for both of us. What inspired you to become a writer? Do you want to go first?
Well, you go first.
Okay. I have been writing since I was 6 years old. That's what my mom says. And I always wanted to be a writer. It's just all I ever wanted to do. It's how I make sense of the world. It's how I figure out what I believe. Um, and my dream was to write books, but I never thought I could do it as a career. So I did a lot of other things. I did journalism, I did marketing, and all kinds of stuff just so I could be paid to write, but not creatively. But I did do my MFA in poetry in my 20s, and that allowed me to teach writing at the university level, which is really fun. And I teach a lot of adults now, but um, I did not. And I wrote, actually, I will say, I wrote 8 books between 1996 and 2013 that were published, poetry and nonfiction. But it was like on the side, labor of love, like, oh, lucky me, whatever. But I wasn't like earning a living that way. And I didn't really define myself that way. And then I think it was my midlife crisis where I said, if I call myself a writer, why am I doing a million other things? And so I totally changed everything. I shifted my business and my schedule, and I like let go of certain clients. And I had a marketing company, I still do, and I started writing novels, and that's where Woman of Valor came from. And so yeah, I don't know. I love words. Like if I could sit and write all day, every day, and have to do nothing else, I would be thrilled. So
Yeah.
yeah.
What about word games like Bananagram,
Um,
Scrabble, Wordle?
I mean, I
I
like
would
them.
love to challenge you to one of those games. Like they're just so much fun. I love those games. Like my
Yes, but I
husband
feel
wants to
like,
go on a date night, somewhere,
yep,
and I'm like, we just stay home and play bananagrams.
totally. But my words, like when I'm playing Boggle with the kids or something, my words
Yeah,
like leave me. I don't know why I can't see
right.
any of the words.
It's
It's
true.
like,
It's very high pressure.
I
Yeah,
know, I know.
it's
What
so
about
fun.
you? What inspired you
I'm
to
not
become a
good at
writer?
it, but I still love it. I feel like
Yes.
my husband has an IQ of like 200 plus, so it's very bad for my self-esteem, but I still like
Aw.
love it. Oh, but about the writer thing. Yes, so
Yeah.
I actually wrote, I have it somewhere over there, my first, oh, there it is, my first book when I was 12 years old. It was like a mystery thriller type. So
Uh-huh.
yeah, I think the first time my mom bought me a book or not a book, but like a journal when I was 6. And
Uh-huh.
so she said I filled it with hate speech about her. Um,
Oh, you're a sweet mom.
she's so
That,
sweet. I can't imagine that's true. But yeah, the only time I wrote in it was to write something like I'm unhappy right now type of
uh-huh.
thing. But yeah, I think when you're a writer, you've just always loved to read and write. It's a way to escape into another world and experience something different, which I
Yeah.
think is always fun for people.
I mean, I love to read too. I am such an avid reader. I mean, I remember I went to summer camp for a lot of years, and I took in I think either sixth or seventh grade, Marjorie Morningstar, which is like this big, you
Oh,
know?
I love that book.
I took it to camp. Like, what was I doing taking that to camp?
Well, of
But,
course, it
you
makes
know,
sense.
yes,
That's where, right? That's where they met.
well, that's true. But I
Yeah,
love, I
very
love
appropriate.
like getting lost in a book. And so I wanted to be able to create that same experience, you know? Um, I think also like,
Chaim Potok, that's who wrote it.
yes, yes, yeah.
All
And
right,
I
go
mean,
on.
yeah, I love like all of I love getting lost in a book. And I feel like I also tell my students, like, you could write a book and then you don't have to publish it. You could just write it for the sake of writing it. But yeah, thank you, Tracy. Herman Wouk, you're right. Chaim Potok wrote, My Name
Oh,
is Usher Lev.
sorry. My name is
That's right.
Usher Lev. Tracy, you
Yes,
got
love
me.
that.
And here I was
Um,
bragging.
I actually almost named my son Asher Lev. My son is Asher,
That's it.
but
My son's name is Usher Lev.
you gave him Lev as the middle name, really?
Yes,
Yeah.
because of
My
that book.
my
Daniel and I both
ex-husband,
loved it.
yeah. No,
So what
Asher,
happened? What's
yes.
your son's middle name?
Melech, that was his so Asher was my grandfather and Melech was my e- ex's grandfather. So that's why. Firstborn.
Well,
Yes.
so do you regret it now?
No, no.
Okay, that's
But
good.
yeah. So anyway.
Okay.
Anyway, so I was gonna say one thing like about writing and publishing, like I think that it's one thing to write a book. It's another thing to want it to be published. And I do that because I want to like have a conversation with people. I want like my words to connect and like open minds and start conversations and like build communities, you know? So did you ever think about writing but not necessarily going for publishing, or was it always like I want both?
Well, I never actually thought I would get represented. So I just went and I thought at the same time that my self-published book and along came Layla would like make me a multimillionaire. It was right around the time that 50 Shades of Grey, that author was self-published. So I'm like, easy peasy. And I remember like the day it came out, I had to go to like the car repair shop and I'm like, yeah, by the way, I'm like a big time author. So that was funny. And then I don't know. I never thought though that I would actually get an agent. I didn't know anything about it. But then I joined a critique group
Hmm.
because of a friend when I moved here. I don't know. The whole thing just kind of fell together. But I'm still surprised by it. I really didn't. I thought I would just write for me,
Yeah.
basically. So
I think
yeah.
you have to. I think that the best books come from like when you love writing it, then your readers are gonna love it too, you know. So,
Yeah,
you know.
100%. Yeah.
All right. So, do we have questions from the audience? Does anybody want to chat with us and ask any questions of Heidi or of me before we start giving away some free books?
Oh,
And you can just,
someone's listening to Marjorie. Oh, it's Lisa. She's listening. She's my Catholic fan. Hi, Lisa.
ooh, love
I hope
that.
it's not a secret. I love that I have Catholic fans. So she's listening to Marjorie Morningstar. That's a great idea. Yeah. Sorry, what were you saying, Lynn? Did you say something?
I was just asking if anybody has questions they would like to ask us. You can unmute and just throw your question our way if you'd like to.
Hi, it's Wendy. I had a quick
Hey,
question,
Wendy.
please.
Yeah.
Wendy.
Um, did your families ever have any pushback to the sex scenes? Do they even read what you're writing, or has that ever come up? Or like, in-laws and older family members, has that been an issue at all? I was just curious.
Well, so for me personally, it's been a huge issue between my 19-year-old daughter and myself. So she has chosen, we both went to the same high school, which is at Beis Yaakov. It's like very, Orthodox, Jewish, girls only type
Mhm.
of situation. And she has my personality, but at the same time, she's very different from me. So she
Mhm.
wants to go more the traditional dating route and whatever. So it has been really, really difficult. And so that's like a huge reason why I regret writing the sex scene because like it's bad
Mhm.
enough that I write romance, you know what I mean? And then to
Yeah.
add the sex scene, it's just like, geez. So
Yeah.
we've had some we just don't talk about it now. Well, she wanted the book at her seminary, but she said, cut off. Can you send it to me without the sex scene in it? And I'm like, no, I can't do that. That would just like
Right.
hurt me too much. And
Yeah.
then so I sent it to her, like she did want it, but then another girl found it and she was reading the sex scene out loud and she's like, is this your parents? Uh Very rude and also not true. Um,
Yeah.
so what about you, Lynn?
You know what, my kids, well, two of my kids will read my books and two of them won't. And so my daughter, who's 22, said, I don't want to read sex scenes that my mother wrote. So she and I will talk about books ahead, like as I'm planning them. And she's actually provided great insight about like character development and we'll like, talk about the scene or the plot points or whatever. But she just doesn't read my books. She's also not a huge reader, but that's really her reason. But my oldest son and then my stepdaughter, they read my books, and my stepdaughter's friends all read my books and post about it on Instagram, which is very
Wow,
cute, and that
that's so
makes me feel great.
sweet.
Um,
Yeah.
but my mom's never had a problem with it. It's funny too because I when my dad died, I wrote a lot about my dad in like creative nonfiction essays, and my mom was sort of offended that I didn't write about her, and I'm like, well.
Oh,
I will, but like I just lost dad,
you
and so
have
I'm
to die
sort of
first?
processing. Yeah, oh, I guess.
Oh,
So I just was, like, but I will write about you, mom, but like I'm sort of processing this death right now. But she
yeah.
hasn't, and the first book that I dedicated to one of my parents was Cave of Secrets, and that was to my dad, and she didn't say anything. And then Charlie Tanner I dedicated to her, and so she was very proud of that. So, but she doesn't say
Oh,
anything about sex.
good.
So,
Oh,
yeah,
good. Yeah.
yeah.
Your mom must be really cool.
She's pretty cool. Yeah, she's
My
pretty
mom's
cool.
like, yeah, I don't think I'll be coming to the meeting tonight. Sitting
I
there.
love your
Yeah.
mom. She's amazing. I think she's very cool. So
Yeah.
I'm lucky that I got to
Yeah.
meet her.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Lisa has a
Yeah.
question for you in the chat, Heidi.
Yes.
What is What is one trope about Orthodox women you are most eager to dismantle through your
Uh,
characters?
I guess that Orthodox Jewish women aren't fun, aren't like that, they're dour or repressed. Actually, I feel like Penina was actually a super feminist character because she was
Mhm.
the one who said, I'm not going to change my lifestyle to fit a man's or what you want.
Mhm.
So even though she was like an Orthodox Jew, like, and people are like, oh, you have all these laws and modesty and whatnot. At the same time, this was something that she chose, and she's like, this is how I find meaning in life and how I
Mhm.
connect to God, and I'm not going to change who I am for a man. And I've seen so many, both just secular and even Orthodox people who do try to change, I think, who they are to please a man, and that's just like not, I don't like that. Yeah, but I
That's
think
all.
the man should change who they are for the woman. So double standard, I admit
100%.
it.
100%. I'm on board with that for sure. Jennifer has a question for both of us. Do you find that most of your audience is Jewish? And do you find it hard to help non-Jewish audience understand that Jewish stories are for everyone? And she says, I grew up reading tons of Asian and African authors, so I never felt like a cultural story had to stay just in one culture, but I'm worried this happens to Jewish stories. That's a really, really great question, Jennifer. I have readers across the board who are Jewish, not Jewish, whatever. Which I love. I spoke to a book club for Women of Valor, and it was over Zoom, and the women were like they were like in a totally non-Jewish area. I don't even know where in the world, but they had like never met Jews. They didn't know anything about it, and they looked up recipes from some of the stuff in the book, like matzo ball soup and challah and other things, and they made it for their book club, and then asked all these questions, and it was so cool. That was just amazing. I will say when I market. Like I'm doing a giveaway for Cave of Secrets right now. And actually, if you want that free giveaway, just let me know, put it in the chat, and I'll make sure I'll send it to you guys. But I'm contacting synagogues and Jewish communities for that because book clubs and I mean that's definitely my audience, but I will speak to anyone. I've spoken to universities and women's groups and whatever, but I hope my books resonate for all kinds of readers for sure. So,
I
how
think they
about you?
totally do. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I would say I was so shocked by the number of Orthodox Jewish, specifically men,
Hmm.
who contacted me. I just had a guy a couple nights ago from South Africa contact me, and he's Orthodox, and he's like, "Your book gave me so much chizuk." Which means like strength
Yeah.
and I'm just like blown away. I'm like, I specifically did not write for you guys because that's
Uh-huh.
embarrassing. Like I just wrote for really the masses.
Mhm.
So for me, I mean, I would say the majority of my readers are Jewish and a whole spectrum of religious observance. But I have also had people contact me and say, "Oh, I loved your book. I shared it with my entire, parish." Who weren't Jewish. But basically more Jewish. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. There's a question from Brooke. She says, for me, is it okay if I'm reading this,
I can
Brooke?
I can say too. I just wanted to like
Go
not
for it. Go
hey.
for it. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
I'll read. I'm very modern Orthodox. Like my Rav is a Chove Rav, so like I wear pants, but
yeah.
do the big three,
I
so it's
love the hair covering, by the way. Tell me
thank you.
where'd you get that?
This is just a scarf off Amazon, but I'm a big Rapunzel fan as well.
Okay,
So,
I love that.
classic
Okay,
Rapunzel.
sorry. Go ahead
Um,
now.
um, the biggest hurdle for me in like writing, let's say premarital intimacy, because let's be honest, like that is like where we get so much of that unresolved sexual tension. It's really hard because like if you get them married, it's happy, it's
Right.
there is something about premarital sex that moves a character arc in a different way. But the biggest hurdle for me is Taharat Hamishpacha, and like I I have an easier like if we're gonna get into like the nitty gritty like halacha of it, the real prohibition is the deoraita prohibition is nida rather than premarital
Yeah.
sex. The
That's
bigger
so
problem,
interesting. Okay.
the bigger
So,
problem is
so Brooke, I just want
wow.
to ask for people who are on the Zoom if they don't know what that is. You're just talking about the laws of family purity and whether the husband and wife separate or not. And so just so people know.
Or
Like
So,
if
even
she
just
has
yeah,
her period,
right.
there's like the
yes.
5 days. Yeah,
Yep.
explain all that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. So for me, like I've just like imagined like if I want to write a couple where one party is like Orthodox and it matters to her, but they're just having this like, like passionate like affair, like, do I have her go jump in a lake? And is that going to be
Right.
weird to people? Like,
That's
Yeah.
but also
awesome
I
and weird.
feel like I also feel really protective of this mitzvah because I feel like it's gotten so much negative press and publicity and it's so misconstrued and misunderstood that I'm almost like I don't want to like share this like really intimate place within Jewish spirituality um to the broader world. And yet, it's really difficult for me to imagine writing Jewish, especially like feminine Jewish sexuality without it. So I just don't know how to approach it. And like, I would love to hear both of your thoughts on just like what the place this has in like Jewish romance without like being this weird thing and like losing half your audience, but also not like, making it like I feel like Unorthodox came out and everyone was like, this is what being
No.
an Orthodox Jew is. And like they're like, do you do the bath thing? Or like are you like and I'm just like it was just a lot, you know? So I'm just
So,
curious how both of you feel.
yeah, I mean, if you don't mind, Heidi, I'll jump in, and then we have one
Yeah,
more
go ahead.
question, and then we'll do our giveaways. But in Woman of Valor, I wrote about this in a little bit of a controversial way because when there's tension in the marriage, Sally actually separates their beds, even though she doesn't need to, and it's like sort of a manipulation, which is not it's not cool, you know. And so, and I realized that like I might get flack for that, you know, for like somebody who is sort of using it inappropriately. But I think that, I mean, people were fascinated to learn about the laws of family purity and mikvah and everything that who did not know. So I feel like in a couple, like, I feel like on the one hand, characters are humans and showing frailties or flaws or mistakes, as long as you're like acknowledging it, is totally welcome because people, we're all flawed. And so when they see a character who isn't doing things exactly right, as long as we acknowledge it in the book, I think that can be a lesson and it can be a conversation. And I think it's also like a learning opportunity for so many readers, even Jewish readers who don't know anything about this. And so I think it's a great opportunity to include family purity and and I know people who I actually know people in the Orthodox world who like as soon as they get married, they are rigid with family purity, but they're not before. And it's just this weird
Yeah.
contradiction
Oh, really? That
the,
surprises me.
well,
Huh.
it's not like they're like blasting it around the community. They're just like making a personal choice, and it
Sure.
may not be right, but for them, you know, it's I don't know. So that I don't know if I'd answered it, but that's sort of some thoughts about it.
No,
Well,
it is
I would,
yeah.
yeah. So, well, I would just say I would agree that this is like a really cool opportunity, and I would totally lean into it, which I think is what Lynn was saying. I think a lot of readers are actually really fascinated by
Mhm.
different cultures, and and you have an opportunity since you know about it firsthand to make it beautiful and to inspire
Yeah.
people and to make it something that is the opposite of unorthodox, which isn't to say that her story doesn't have merit, because I don't want to say that either. But
Mhm.
I also think it's really important to offer a nice and beautiful perspective of the
Yeah,
laws too.
for sure.
What do
We
you
have
think? Sorry, just one quick
yeah,
thing. Like, what do
yeah.
you think of a character who is from enough to care about like dunking in the mikveh before she has premarital sex? Like, does that give you like is that weird or like,
I love it personally. I
I think
love
it's
it.
cool. I
Yeah.
do. And I think also she could say in the book, like, I know this is not kosher, but it's what I'm gonna do, or I'm comfortable with it. And my mom would be
Literally,
mortified, you know.
now that you say that, I literally remember an email. Somebody wrote to me saying, "Why didn't you just have her dunk in a lake first?" And I was thinking to myself, well, it was like, I think it was a Friday night and it was like winter time and like New York, whatever.
Yeah. Totally. There's one more question I wanted us to answer, and then we'll give away books. So Jennifer asked, what advice do you have for someone writing their first book?
Oh, is that Jennifer Ebner?
Yes.
Oh, that's my adopted daughter. I love her.
Ah, love it.
What advice do you have for someone? You go first. I'll have to think about that one.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I say write the book and don't like talk yourself out of it, and it's going to be messy and it's going to need a lot of work. But I always say writing is 80% revision. It should be. And so let it be messy and imperfect, and you can always make it better. You don't need a fancy degree. You don't need to pay a lot of money for a class or a coach or whatever. Like you can just write. But if you're going to write a book, find a community, find people to support you because it's a big project and it takes a lot of time. And I don't know about you, Heidi, but there's so many times, even now, and I have award-winning books that I'm like, oh, this is terrible. Oh, no one's going to read this. Oh, this is horrible. Why am I even wasting my time? No one's going to care. And I have people I can call who say, you're crazy. Of course it's good. And I love the story and whatever. So I think write the book, let it be messy, find your community, just do it. So what do you think, Heidi?
I'm glad you said that, Lynn, because I'm like the worst PR person ever. I always tell people have very low expectations because whatever I write sucks. So I guess my advice is, yeah, just write it and write something that really showcases your voice because I know agents look for that specifically. Not so much are you technically a good writer as much as is your voice really fun or original? They all love a sense of humor, I think, no matter what the genre is. So if you could lead into
Totally.
that, that's always helpful. Yeah.
I think I would also say don't think that you have to publish one way because I always published traditionally and then I decided to start my own imprint and I never saw that coming and I actually love it. And I'm still winning awards even though I don't have an agent and I'm okay with that. But Nurit asked a follow-up question, how to find a community for writing that will not always give positive feedback. I think having two or three people who really get you and really care about you and understand what you're trying to do with the writing and who understand writing, that's all you need. And because they'll be honest when they need to be, and they'll be building you up when they can. So you don't need a ton of people. You don't need to join like clubs or whatever, but like two or three that you can call or meet at a coffee shop and write or on Zoom or whatever. Um, and I will say, this is a little plug, I'm sorry, but I do a free monthly write along on the first Sunday of the month.
Oh,
And you can sign up for it at thewriterscommunity.com. And there's a lot of people there that you might find someone and be like, hey, can we connect or whatever? And make friends that way too. So,
yeah.
okay, giveaways. So Heidi,
Yeah.
you're giving away Match Me If You Can, right?
Yes,
Okay.
I am.
And so I am going to pick the name for this lucky winner.
Yeah.
And it is going to be Catherine Matthews, who's going to win Match Me If You Can. So Catherine, if you
Woohoo!
could put your address in a chat to me or to Heidi, that would be great. You don't have to share it with the whole group. And then I'm going to give away Woman of Valor. And Heidi, who's getting this?
Oh, let me see. I don't know how you pick somebody so fast. Do you just pick some? Okay, I'll pick this person, Nurit Zachter. She sounds Israeli. Are you Israeli, Nurit? You're the first one I saw, so I'm just picking you.
Yes. So Nurit, if you could send me your address as well, you can just do a private chat to me and I will send
Zachter.
you the book. And let me know for Woman of Valor if you want audio, ebook, or hard copy, and we'll get it to you. And I think let's see, a couple last questions. Somebody was asking how to follow us on socials. So
Oh,
I'm Lynne Golodner on Instagram, Lynn Meredith Golodner, and Lynn Golodner on Facebook. I have a personal and a professional. And Heidi, what about you?
so I am basically Heidi Shertok across all social platforms. I do have a Substack newsletter called Schmooze, Booze, and Books. So definitely follow me there. I think that's such a fun name. Yeah,
And I'm on Substack too. Mine's called A Look in the
that's
Mirror.
right.
And
I love
yeah,
your Substack
thank
newsletters. They're
you.
really
Yes,
good.
and I love yours. Well, this has been so fun, Heidi. I cannot thank you enough. This is like the highlight of my week. And
And
um,
mine.
Thank you,
yes,
ladies.
yes. Thank
Thank
you so much,
you.
everybody. And we will be in touch. Thank you for being here. and we'll be sending you information about all of how you can reach us. We will email you after this with our links and links for the next events. I have another author talk on April 28th with Sarah Ansbacher, who's an Israeli author,
Oh, I
historical
love
fiction.
her. I met her in Tel Aviv when I
You
was there.
did.
It
You
was
did.
so
So I will.
And
fun.
I'm hoping to meet her in Tel Aviv. God, if God
That's
willing,
right.
I get to go in May. God willing, God willing.
Hopefully.
Amazing.
I actually was very I was honored to have been asked by her to read the arc of her book, Another Shore. I didn't read the first one, but the story is fascinating.
Oh.
It's a really like an unbelievable story that I knew sort of this like the whole background of what was happening during the Haganah and all that kind of stuff with coming before like in Mandate Palestine and people coming in like those ship Exodus, and it's kind of around that kind of thing. But this particular story was kind of buried by Israel because it was a little embarrassing. So anyway,
Her
it's quite
her
an
books are
odyssey
great.
of a story, yeah.
Yes. So
So
we'll be talking on
yeah,
April 28th. Hopefully you'll come to that.
I
And I
hope
will
so.
send information to everybody from tonight so you guys can sign up and we can follow each other everywhere we are.
Okay,
So
and by
Thank
the
you
way, I
so
love the
much.
sex scenes. I love the sex scenes. I'm
Love you,
I'm
thanks.
I'm
Tracy.
I'm a sexed up old lady. So
Oh,
what
that's
can
Good
I
for
awesome.
say?
you.
Thanks, Tracy. Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Great to
you.
see you all.
Bye.
Thank you,
Bye.
Bye.
Lynn. Thank you,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.